All right, let's just give this a whirl. It hit the top of that fan. That was perfect, guys. Okay, so if you notice, there was a delayed reaction there. I have a system here that is pretty sweet. So as you can see, I could hook it here, and it becomes a time delay. You see that? So it gives me a second to pull my hand away to set things up, and then the slightest provocation fires it, which is cool because I can set things up. Now, what I mean by that is, watch this closely. And hold on, sorry. Let me just show you again up close. So, first stage here, second stage here, but if you want to have the delay, you need to have this set up so that the two pieces, sorry about the crummy footage, guys, but this is really tough to do one-handed. However, it is pretty much made to do one-handed, but I'm intended to set it up two-handed, put the plane in place. Now you have a launch here, and all you have to do is touch it a little bit because this is on a slight angle back, which puts the piece sticking out on a slight angle forward, but low enough that the tail doesn't actually interfere with it. So the plane sits below it. So what you get is a nice launch. Now the problem is I have this set up to do this a few different ways. So this is stage one. You notice I've got the elastics run 2 on either side of this. That's real important. So now we stage 2 it. It's ready to launch on a moment's notice. I got my hand ready to throttle. And bam, it launches. I put my hand on the throttle. My right hand is already on the stick pulling back a little bit for the launch. And it lets me have just a thumb tick is all it needs to launch it. Or I can start it and just let it go. And eventually it'll pull itself off of here and go. And that's kind of cool because I can just set it and step to my position where I want to be. And it'll give me a second or two delay before it goes off. So, this has turned out to be such a great design, I decided I would share it with you guys. So, there's also this part of it. I can stage 1 and stage 2 it when I set it up, and truly do it one-handed, which is kind of convenient, because in the end, I just did that all with my left hand. My right hand is on the phone, and it works. And again, I have it set up properly. So, here's what you do. I've got a little section here. Look at this. Did we just break one of our elastics? I believe we did break one of the strands. Look at that. We did. And it didn't even let go. Isn't that great? I could actually launch it again. That's great. That's great. That just shows how great a little system this is. Look at that. It's broken. And I can still set it up and launch an aircraft off it, which is great. The main one didn't break, but one of the little guys did. So generally what I do is I put a little piece of tape on here. It'll come off after a couple of launches or whatever, but the tape is just so that when the pen lid grabs it, the rubber sometimes will stick to the pen lid tape and you'll get the whole thing sticking to it and not launching, and that's bad. So what I do is I take a little bit of tape. I actually had a little bit of duct tape on here for that launch, and I will prove it. Along the trajectory of our flight path, we find the evidence. Now, I did say it hit here, and it did. In fact, it went all the way over here. So it actually made good speed. Not only that, but if you look at where this was, and the height of that, versus the relativistic height of this, it stayed on an upward trajectory, folks, which is really exciting because that means this is 100% success. It held a really nice glide angle and just launched. These are actually great little gliders, guys. That whole series of gliders is awesome. And just so you can see, the tail was hanging off, guys, and it still flew straight. And it was almost that bad before I launched it. So the launcher works great. It tends to launch things very straight, but I will give you a couple cautions about that. One, if you don't drill things in the dead center, things won't sit level. You really want this whole thing to sit level. If this doesn't sit level, the plane won't sit level. One of the ways you can ensure that is by drilling them at the exact same length. So you cut them, then you drill holes here so that they actually coalesce and interact together, one coming in from either side of the peak in the exact same spot, not necessarily, but on the same angle, so that in the end, when it sits pretty level. Okay, so that's one thing. So let's cover some stats before I end this video. 16.5 inches long. I won't tell you where the cuts are because it won't matter. It'll decide on your aircraft. So basically I have this set up as follows. The first set of notches, because I don't actually need this pulley system. In case it breaks, I can still keep going. First set of notches. Second set of notches. Okay, now you put the plane in, and then you can pull the plane by the tail, or you can use one of these little guys, which I recommend and prefer. So what you do is you put the little fella in place like I showed you, you pull the tab, and you launch it from the tab. Works awesome. Really simple setup, cheap to make, very effective, puts everything on a nice angle. The back one is 5 inches, 3.5 mil carbon fiber rod. Front two are 8 inch, 3.5 carbon fiber, and this guy is 4.5, I believe, or 6, and it is my cross member. Works great, guys. Lovely little system. What I will say to you is the big points to cover on this system are the main elastics, so I'll show you how that's attached. All I've done is notch it so that it doesn't actually need the glue to hold it in place while I caulk it, and the glue just does exactly that. It holds it in place so that when I launch, the elastic stays attached. And what's cool about this is you can use one elastic at full throttle. You could use 2 elastics at a variety of positions, and it works great. So I've been playing with this, and honestly, I'm thrilled. Now this is going to happen. You are going to break elastics, guys. Look at this. I've busted half the elastics on this since I built it, testing it. And the rest of them kind of let go today, but this is kind of one of those things where if I'm bringing an RC plane, I'm not going to launch 20 times. I bring a cheap bag of elastics or put some better quality ones on. They'll last a lot longer. But you bring a cheap bag of elastics and some tape, and you can be out flying all day. This is great because it hand launches it for you. You don't have to worry about your hand launching technique. I'm going to be doing it on this, partly because I'll be running a camera and flying and all this other stuff, and it's so much easier to have this hand launch for me and to have it get the launch perfect every time. And if it can launch it from here to there, by the time it does that, I will have my hand on the throttle. All it has to do is keep it going on an upward angle without me putting any input in on the stick side. I jam the throttle and it'll take off at that angle. It'll keep flying. These are well built and they'll fly well. So that being said, I'm going to let you guys go. This has proved to be an absolute success. That fan is right around 6 feet away from me, so that's not very far, but it was still traveling up, and it hit right at the top of the fan, so that's good. And if it hadn't hit the fan, it would have continued to travel up for at least another couple of feet, which gives me about 1.5 seconds from launch to hit the throttle and pull back a little. And honestly, if all I have to do is go flick and push the throttle forward and pull back, dude, that's less than 1 second every time I can do that. And if it'll keep it in the air for 1.5 seconds or 2 seconds or 3 seconds, I have tons of time, technically speaking, relativistically at least, to be able to get on the throttle. My traditional problem with hand launching is I hand launch here, and now my hand is down and I'm on the throttle, but I might be too late if my throw was crap. But with this, it kind of guarantees a nice throw. It keeps the wings level. It takes care of your technique issues. And then you just launch the little sucker, and she'll go because you've got a lot of force there. She'll launch with a good throw every time. That being said, this is my solution to piss poor hand launching technique. Really, I've never been a good hand launcher. I fly 3D helis, man. So hand launching isn't really an issue. In fact, I landed on the palm of my hand without any trouble and hand launched them easily because they're helicopters. But this is going to be awesome. And for planes, I've been doing a lot of designing and a lot of testing, and I came up with a prototype, and it's worked absolutely amazing in every test. Except the ones where it's hung up on the front of the elastic because I didn't put a little piece of tape there. But now that I do that, it works flawlessly, and I thought I'd recommend it. Keith out.